happening, family? Happy Friday, everybody. What's going on?
Happy
Friday. Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
I'm dubbing this Fire Fridays because we just bring fire every Friday, and you know what I mean?
Every Friday is fire.
Especially if you're up there in the Northeast. If your week been a little cold, we bring you some heat today. So glad for everybody to be tapped in.
It's cold. It's cold. Well, listen, if you're down in Florida, it's nice, about 75, 80 degrees down here. So come on down. Come on. The flights are cheap. Come on down, and we'll keep you'll stay warm out here.
Came from Chicago to celebrate her birthday down here in South Florida because we're getting into our warmer days, and you know what I mean. It's nice out here, so come check us out in Florida.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to come to Ohio?
No, y'all can keep that up there.
Hey, so listen, I want to make sure, I got to give a big old shout out. So I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm rocking my Mary and Maine t-shirt. For all y'all that don't know Mary and Maine, I'm rocking it. Is one of our, Hope Wiseman is the owner. She's based out of Maryland. It is a Black dispensary that's based in Maryland. She happens to also be our state director for the state of Maryland with M for MM. But she is, but we are rocking and celebrating Mary and Maine. If you don't know anything about them, listen, in Maryland, they are doing some big things. They were super proud of Hope and her team. She has a phenomenal team in Maryland. So go check out Mary and Maine at maryandmaine.com. For those that do not, if you're not familiar with Hope and her business there, and we want to see more Mary and Maines across the board. So the month of February, Chef Nikki, I'm rocking, all of our excellence in cannabis. I'm rocking swag, so that's why. So what you got? Black Healers Matter. I know that's right. So listen, we're having a conversation today because one thing about it is we're celebrating Black excellence in cannabis. With that being said, we cannot the contributions that our guests have made today, and we have Chef Keena coming on. We first have Chef Nikki, and the opportunity to take your passion, your ability to create confectionery and be a foodie and be able to connect your passion and what drives you to the cannabis industry has got to be phenomenal. So without further ado, I want to make sure I introduce Chef Nikki. Please introduce yourself. Tell everybody who you are, where you're located. We know you're in Nicole, but tell them where you're located and tell them a little bit about, your business and what you do. You on mute.
I'm so sorry.
Start over. There you go.
Yeah, I've been trying to get used to all the platforms. I'm like, every other day I'm on a different platform.
I know.
So I'm Chef Nikki Stewart. I am a celebrity chef, as in I work for celebrities, and I represent myself as a celebrity chef on the scene of a lot of different places. I am a graduate of The Ohio State University. Let's just be clear. I studied pharmaceutical sciences, so my first job and career was in pharmacy. So I was in compounding pharmacy and also retail pharmacy and pharmaceutical sales.
Wow.
That was like my whole previous life.
Me too, girl. I was with Bristol Myers Squibb, girl, back in the day.
Oh, you did? Oh, so you already know. I used to work for Merck. I used to work for AstraZeneca.
Yes, that was back in the day when you had your Amex card. They'd be like, just go spin, go get your gas, get your car. It was definitely an experience.
It was that. That was a good early mid 2000s.
Yeah,
I was like, So, and speaking of that, I took note from all the doctors that I was catering for. Because, all I got to do is just basically make sure all the doctors have lunch every day so they can write prescriptions. I was like, man, as much money I'm spending on catering, I probably could do this myself, right? So I decided to study to become a chef, switch career paths. But what really ignited it was I just was kind of suffering from a lack of creativity. Being in, especially in a pharmacy, I work for CVS. I was in a space, very confined, very small, very stale, very cold. And even in the pharmaceuticals, like sales and compounding, I just did not have any gratification as far as my career choice.
Yeah.
So studying culinary, I studied under a lot of like award-winning chefs as far as like James Beard chefs, Michelin star restaurants.
Wow.
Culinary studies in Thailand, Europe, went South America, because I wanted to kind of like understand flavors and how to, really apply them in different, unique ways. So then fast forward, I became a chef for a lot of celebrities. I started to fill that niche in going on tour, doing a lot of celebrity events. So that's kind of how I got into the space. My first ever cannabis party was 250 people for Snoop. So that was my first cannabis dinner. So I would say if you're going to have a cannabis dinner, you might as well do one for Snoop.
That part.
I don't know. I don't know.
So let's just out of curiosity in regards to being able to go from being in the pharmaceutical industry, in the coal environment. I mean, I'm with you on like you're independent, you're by yourself. It's not very like motivating, or it's not very creative, and it seems like you're creative. Like it's pretty regimented, right?
It's very regimented.
And then you looked at the fact, and trust me, I'm one of those ones. When I used to do lunches, I was like, if I could find someone who did lunches and would do lunch and deliver, I would pay them a king's ransom. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So how did you transfer over? Like, how did you make your first celebrity connection? Did you have a friend? Do you mind if you tell us who it was, or how did you make that first connection? Because I know a lot of people are
now you asking secrets.
The secret sauce. Well, give us
I'll kind of give you some. I grew up. My family has been in entertainment. Okay. My family has been in entertainment management and publicity. So I grew up as a kid sitting in the kitchen at Branford Marcellus's house. Like that's the kind of kid. Like I was just Harry Connick Jr. So not a friend of mine, my aunt really, she manages a lot of musicians like in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then when I was just kind of growing up in that space, she told me one day, she was like, if you ever figure out what you want to do with the cooking stuff, there's a niche that you could fill with some celebrity stuff. And I was like, all right, but she made me work for that shit. Like she was not like, it was not a very like easy process.
Sure.
I mean, because she wanted to make sure that I actually lived up to not just like this her niece and she plugging her, you know what I'm saying? She wanted to make sure that I lived up to standard. So that was kind of how I got into the space. But then at a certain point, I made my own connections, and she was just like, how did you do that party with Snoop? And I was like, because I'm dope.
I'm good at what I do.
Yeah, I'm good at what I do. But like the one thing that I'll always say is your network. Like my college network, like we're so tight. A lot of us. I'm also an AKA, so the Greek network. So really, the plug for the Snoop party came from a Delta at the time.
Yeah,
I went to college with. She had just started working for Mary Jane.
Wow.
And so she had left Rolling Stone and went to Mary Jane. And so she was just like, hey girl, what you been up to? I know you've been making edibles and stuff for a bunch of like, because I used to make edibles for a lot of celebrities so they can just travel with.
Sure.
And then it just kind of spiraled into working, like full time doing events. So, I mean, previously I had already been working for Dave Chappelle. So like Snoop was able to be like, oh, she Dave Chappelle chef, so she should be all right. You know what I mean?
Right. You was validated, even though you know that you were like, hey, I'm good, but that it didn't help to have validation as well.
You know what's crazy to me is Chef Nikki is being so humble. Like she just name dropping like it's nothing. Like, I used to be a chef for Dave Chappelle, and Snoop thought that was cool, and so he brought me like this is crazy.
I mean, what the funny thing is like because I've been connected to to Dave, his family, for so long, because my family has been doing PR for him since he left the Chappelle Show.
Wow. Okay.
So he really is like my homie.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? In the sense we're cool. Like we're always, you know what I'm saying? Like his family, we're cool. Like his kids, I love his kids. So we have that kind of relationship. And then, I mean, other than that, like there are people that I work for that I don't have post relationships with. Like, for instance, like the Migos. I did a tour for the Migos. I mean, and be honest with you, I'm not like interested in like hanging out with them. You know what I mean? But it was great experience.
Sure.
I also did a tour for Rock Nation. So I worked for DJ Khaled for some time. And so trying to get his weight down. And then we had him on Weight Watchers. And so that was like a whole thing. Yeah.
Right. Being able to count points and trust me of that. Hey, before Chef Nikki, before you say anything else, hey, we got Chef Keena coming in. So let me just bring her all into the stream. Hey, Chef Keena, how are you, my love? Hi.
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus.
I know. Listen, it's all right. You good? Chef Nikki was telling us about her start, and we're going to dive so deep. This is going to be such a fire show today. And I want to, before I go into deep, because I want to, Chef Nikki, learn about your what school you went to, and then also just as we go into the business of taking this from a passion to a business. But Keena, please share with everybody who you are, and what you do in the space, where you're located. Give us a little background.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Keena Moffitt. I call myself a recovering accountant. That's my first life. Before cannabis or anything in food, quite honestly. I am located in Georgia now, but I am Chicago girl, born and raised. So yeah, I got into cannabis actually. I wouldn't even call it a hobby. It was more of a passion project. I am a master herbalist, and I'm a big proponent of holistic health and wellness through herbal means. And my son's best friend in middle school actually was diagnosed with a rare childhood cancer, so rare, in fact, that it wasn't even scheduled and categorized as a cancer. It took their work to actually get it listed as a cancer so that it could be treated as such, and she could use insurance and stuff like that. So when she contracted that, the conversation kind of arose of using cannabis treatment. And while I had heard about medicinal cannabis kind of here and there, it really wasn't something that I knew very much about. This was way back in 2015 when I started. So I was just really curious about cannabinoid therapy. So I really just picked up every publication or medical journal that I could find on the subject and started to learn about the endocannabinoid system and how it works in the body and things of that nature, and how cannabis in particular works on cancer. So then the conversation, I started to ask more questions like, well, is she going to be smoking it and all this stuff? And my son at the time was like 12 or something. He was like, Mom, I don't know. You asking me too many questions. And I really was just really concerned about that part. So I didn't have any issues with the cannabis part. I got it. I fully understood it and supported it. But the whole smoking part for a kid made no sense to me. And then here in Georgia, we only have low THC oil, and it's really lame. And then you have to have
be a paraplegic to get
absolutely. Yep, you have to be like terminal basically to even get that card. So it's just ridiculous. So it just wasn't like the means weren't really there for properly medicating her at the time. So I had recently closed my commercial bakery, which I opened in 2013. And I just thought, well, what if I teach myself how to infuse cannabis into food? Because I did always hear jokingly about like weed brownies. Although I had never tried them myself, I knew that was a thing. So I was like, okay, so that's like I said, back into the books, learning about the plant from a chemical standpoint, learning about its resins and that it was fat soluble and all that kind of stuff. So once I learned all of that, I literally took all of the recipes from my old commercial bakery that were very successful in Whole Foods and Amazon and things like that, and wrote my cookbook and converted those recipes to cannabis recipes. So it wasn't any intention to really join the industry or to do anything like that. It was truly a passion project because I figured there had to be more people taking care of, elderly people, children, people who just didn't need to be smoking. Maybe they had lung conditions who could benefit from knowing how to cook with cannabis. So that's really how I got into the game, so to speak. And once I self-published my cookbook, people just assumed I made edibles. And being the true entrepreneur I am and a girl who loves the coin, that is where the journey began.
That's
and
awesome.
there it is, right?
And here we are now, 6 years later.
Real quick before we go any further, we are on multiple platforms right now. So for those,
we can't hear you, brother. You gotta speak up a little bit.
Okay.
You gotta speak up a little bit.
Let me move a little bit closer. Is that better? Can you guys hear me now?
That's a little better.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to reset the room really quick for everybody who's listening on Clubhouse. If you're on Clubhouse, this is Canna Talk with Roz. We're on here every Friday, bring you guys fire guests and fire conversation. So thank you guys for joining us. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, we are live everywhere you could possibly be live right now. So tap in with us. If you have questions for our guests on Facebook and YouTube, go ahead and type those in the chat and we'll get them. If you're on Clubhouse, you can raise your hand and come up to the stage and we'll try to get your question behind the scenes and then get it answered live as well. So definitely tap in. Thank you to our lovely guests. I actually have a question for both of you guys because I noticed both of you guys left the corporate world, left these jobs that y'all probably went to school for, got degrees for, and all this other stuff. And I'm just curious, one, what was the real catalyst to make you say, you know what, enough of this corporate life. I want to get into, I want to get into the cannabis industry. And then also, how does your previous skill sets actually transfer to what you're doing now?
All right. Well, I would say getting out of the corporate space was me controlling my own destiny. Sure. And me also saying to myself, like, I don't want somebody to tell me when to come to work. I don't like, this is the things that I'm like thinking of, I wanted to be able, so my family has always owned business. My father owns a construction company. And my father said to me very early when I started working, you either are an employee or an employer. I said, okay, got it. He's like, there's two different mindsets. And I was like, you're correct. And so I started to realize that I was more an employer or more or less that I didn't want to be kind of like handled in a certain way. So that's why I left the pharmaceutical industry. And on top of that, I was not for the shits for big pharma. I mean, I'm, very much aware and very adept in like the herbal space, not just, like entheogens, but just herbs in general. Sure. So I decided, like, aside from that, and I love to cook, let's, like merge these things. But I took I took care to make sure that I was trained properly. Though my knowledge is great when I'm doing edibles or infusions, because specifically I was a pharmacist. Because specifically I used to make drugs. Because I was in compounding, making salves, making ointments, making, tinctures and like all of these things that had like no actual like healing behind them. They were just more or less like Band-Aids to get you to your next prescription. So that's just kind of like, for me, it was a thing of like controlling my own space. I have two daughters, and one is a freshman at Spelman and one is in the 8th grade. So for me, the example of women and entrepreneurship was very important to me. I always tell my daughters, like, have your own money, of course, but know how to build a business, know how to make a business, know how to file an LLC, trademark, like we do all these things. Like both my kids have brokerage accounts before it was cool to have brokerage accounts, Right. What I mean? Like, So in the process of raising them, I also realized that I am building my own legacy, and I am creating and writing my narrative, because I told my kids, you'll never be able to say and tell my grandkids I was a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Let's get the words right for you right now. You know what I'm saying? Get the words right for you right now. So that way the narrative is already there. So I realized that I'm creating that. And when I took ownership of my movements and how I move and how that affects people and the products that I put out, you know, that's kind of how like I merged and got to this point that I am right now.
Yeah, a nice transfer of skill set over from what you already was natural over into the industry. Yourself, Keena, how was that transfer over? Did you have a skill set that you can look back now that really is working for you?
For sure. I mean, my story is a little different. I actually always wanted to be a pediatric oncologist, so that was what I desired to do. With my life and with my career, I've always had a soft spot for sick children. So like even when I was in college, I worked in homes for sick and disabled children and things like that. So that was my passion. But when I got pregnant with my son, I was 17, and I just thought it was irresponsible to take 8 years to go to school and then another 4 to 6 for residency and things like that. So I kind of defaulted to what I was good at, and I'm a nerd. So I'm really good at math and science. And I was like, okay, well, everybody will always need an accountant. So,
sure.
So I double majored in accounting and finance. And that's where I got my degrees, because it just felt like a responsible, smart thing to do. But you know, I think everything always comes full circle. I realize now, because I've considered many times going back to school to get an MD, and I'm like, I don't even believe in allopathic medicine or Western medicine anymore. I've become so entrenched with more holistic and herbal medicine that I wouldn't even fit, you know, at this point. I mean, I guess I could become like an osteopathic doctor or something like that, but it really just isn't a good fit for me. And I always have loved cooking and making food and stuff like that. So just a great marriage for me that cannabis is a nutraceutical. I mean, it's beautiful medicine, but it also makes delicious food. So it's just a great marriage of the things that I love to do and I'm naturally good at. And no different than how I thought about accounting and finance when I was in college. There's never going to be a time with any of my businesses that I run that an accounting and finance background will not benefit me very well.
Those books are tight. Those books are tight.
Yeah, my books are tight. You know, I can write a pitch deck in my sleep and a business plan. So you know, it's not something, you know, I just feel like at the end of the day, God, the universe, spirit, whoever you believe in, makes everything work together sincerely for your good and for your highest purpose. So although it may be a detour, you know, you still ultimately end up where you're supposed to be, and you'll take all of those experiences and be the best at it. I think the fact that I do have a science brain and a math brain helps me tremendously with cannabis. Cannabis is full of numbers. I mean, a lot of people don't know that when they want to cook with cannabis or use it, but it's all numbers, you know, dosing and all that, and measuring and things like that. So just having a propensity toward those things is super helpful, even in a new, more fun and exciting industry than staring at spreadsheets all day.
Hey, I saw something in your I think it was in the bio, or it was your title. Like, so is there some type of certification that you're going for? Or is there something in regards to, wasn't there like some type of certification that you're actually going after, Chef Keena, or something of that nature?
I am certified by the American Culinary Federation in cannabis, edibles, and cooking. I also am certified as a master herbalist. I'm certified in medicinal cannabis and CBD. I'm a nerd. I like school. So I have a lot of certifications.
Talk about the certification from the edible standpoint. I didn't know that there was a certification for culinary for cannabis edibles.
It's fairly new. I mean, the American Culinary Federation, they kind of are a certifying body for different forms, and Chef Nikki can probably speak to this as well. Like, they just, any specialty that you can do within food in general, they typically will either offer a course or some form of formal examination so that you can prove this. So what's different is that for the cannabis one, there is no course. They, you kind of got to know your stuff before you take their exam to be able to be certified. They don't really teach you anything. They give you a list of books, and I think there's like an intro something on their site. But for me, I didn't even have to study. I've been doing this for 6 years and had already done all the research. So I literally just sat down one day and took the test so that I could just add another certification to my belt. But
yeah, so that was like, if you have people out here, I mean, what does it take in regards to, because you have so many people that want to get into the business of edibles and cannabis.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So yeah, and just because you can cook, and so maybe Chef Nikki.
Go ahead and let me loose. I have so much.
Let it loose, girl. Let it loose. Tell us.
I just always want to be clear with a couple things, but I'm gonna let you finish, Roz.
And then, but I want you to come right on in, right behind me. I think we have a responsibility. I know I do, as and Eric and Infra and Mel, you got people say I want to do this, but understanding the opportunity, and then understanding if you have a skill set, and then understanding how to equate that over to the business side. Because just because you may have a skill set, and even you may have an opportunity, doesn't mean that you understand how to parlay that into monetizing that from a business perspective. But Chef Nikki, I would love to hear your thoughts on.
I feel like Chef Nikki about to go all Kanye. She's like, I'm gonna let you finish.
But we need it. And she over there listening. She's over there.
And she over there, taking some dabs and stuff right now.
Oh, I'm ripping this bong while I was talking to y'all.
She calming her nerves so she don't go off too hard on her. But go ahead.
Right.
Well, so it's a thing that I have. It's a thing. And I talk about this in the kitchen all the time with my staff. My sous chef, Linda Berry, she teaches culinary school, but she also teaches at the School of Cannabis.
I love Linda.
Yes. Linda is like my rock for sure in the kitchen. Everybody, like a chef always has to have a good sous chef because, they help us shine and vice versa.
Right.
And so, Linda and I talk about this all the time, and some of my other chefs, about what a cannabis chef is. Okay. I'm going to be clear with you.
Please.
Because you make edibles does not make you a cannabis chef. Because you can't come into the kitchen with me and take the cannabis out and go toe to toe. You just can't. You can't. Because you make one thing, you are either in confection, in pastry, like there's all these categories of which you can get certified for. You can get your home certified to cook in if you're doing bakery items, okay? But you can't get your home certified to cook in if you are doing actual food, dairy, protein, things like that. So if you're only doing one thing, that doesn't make you a chef. I just want to be clear. But if you have a multifaceted array of things, or you're teaching, or you're doing other things, then you can, that title can be a little bit more fitting. It's really always compare it to being a doctor. I'm just not going to pull up because I just WebMD some shit real quick and be like, yeah, so let me tell you what you got. I'm not going to do that. So don't come on my job and do that shit to me.
Right.
You don't get to do that. I have worked very hard. I have studied very hard. I have traveled the world. I have worked with chefs. Some of my best friends are Chef Roble, Kwame Amwachi. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have friends that are legitimate chefs. Those are my homies. And we talk about this shit all the time. And you know what they say to me? Kwame, you know who Kwame is. Kwame Amwachi. He has a book, From a Young Black Chef. He told me I can never do what you do. He's judging Top Chef this season.
Right.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So, and he also has a James Beard. He just won last year. I have so many chefs that are in those positions, and they look at me like, bruh, you're really that bitch, because there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way I can even fathom that shit.
What really stood out to me was the part you said, I'm a chef at a level where I understand how to infuse the cannabis in, but you can take it out and still the quality, the excellence, the experience is still going to be, a grade A. And so, and that's where the on the cannabis side of being able to be an infused chef and what that means, and marketing that and saying that you can do that. I think it's just important that it is a skill set that you really do have to study on. And I don't know, do you ever have interns or apprentices that work with you, Chef Nikki, or if you have folks that are
in my kitchen, I only hire women. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2, the Black woman. You said I got you. Most of my kitchen are women of color.
Yeah.
And that's very important to me. And it's important to me because we speak energy, we speak soul, we speak like the fluidity of which we work, and that translates into the food. You can't fuck with us. You just can't. You know what I'm saying? A lot because again, and we're like workhorses. Like we work. So yes, I do allow interns and apprentices, but you already have to have a certain level of skill. I do get my DMs are filled with people that cook and that on the Instagram their title is chef, but I'm like, I don't know. So I'm looking for a certain thing. Like my second sous chef, Noelle, she's only 22, 23, but she went to Napa Valley Culinary School. Like she made a point to like educate herself first and get herself in a good position. She runs one of the best restaurants in Detroit. I mean, like her skill set is great, and but she knew what she was bringing to the table. I also would prefer if you are interning or working with me in that capacity that you already have a business idea that you want to start, because I prefer to have people work with me that already have businesses, that already have a food truck or a food cart, or because you also understand like enterprise and entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So there's no question on why I work the way that I work, because you get it. You got to be able to think next and 10 times ahead of those steps. You know what I mean? I can come in the kitchen and observe at commercial kitchens. You know, if you don't know your way around them, that's also an issue for me, because I have people that have come in the kitchen and be like, "How do you use this?" I'm like, "Come on, like this is a simple thing."
Right.
And I just tell people, just get yourself in a position before you come to me. Just do what I did. I put the work in. I peel potatoes, and I still peel potatoes. You know what I mean? But I started from the bottom. I really did.
Yeah. And don't just because they go on your Instagram page and see you did something with Dave Chappelle, all this other kind of stuff, that wasn't a given. That was hard work, dedication. And honestly, and even when you get to that level, the anxiety, I don't know about you, but my anxiety would be so high because you already know that you already know you could deliver, but you also want the experience to be even better than better. And it's just,
the level of anxiety sometimes that I have is there's a reason why I'm like 300-400 milligrams a day. Because there were times this past summer that we were having Chappelle summer camp, and I did all the food program. I did like all the Netflix production, green room, like I do all that stuff. And so one time, like David Letterman was coming to do his, My Next Guest Represents. And I'm like, already, like, okay, David Letterman. Okay, cool. And then another time, like, you'll just be like, whoa, Trevor Noah. Okay, Jon Stewart. Okay, wait, I got to feed all of them later. Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Tiffany Haddish.
And their expectations are, they eat good on a regular.
Yeah, they eat good on a regular. So I'm already like, I got to turn it up 1,000.
That's why I told you. Listen, that's why I said my anxiety level would be. And it's not because I doubt me, because I'm always. See, this is how I look at it in life. And I love you, Chef Keena, and I love you, Chef Nikki. And like, listen, this is like a girl club. And and first and foremost, shout out to Kit Grimes for getting me connected with you ladies. That sister right there, she's serving as a COO for Minorities for Medical Marijuana. She's a bridge maker.
The best.
Yeah, that's a sister that you gotta love. Kate Grimes, shout out to you, my sister. But you could be working in, like, I'm not gonna be in the kitchen, but if you talk about somebody that can produce award-winning education, that can be able to take people from A to Z within a heartbeat and be able to slay it, you know you can do what you can do. But you do have those anxiety moments that you're like, let me take a breath, and then it seems like it automatically kicks in, and you just do what you do normal, right?
Yeah, I mean, you end up, it's like an adrenaline rush. I mean, like, my favorite high is when I put my towel down and my apron comes off. My favorite kind of high. I'm like, oh, I did that. Okay, cool. I look at everybody's face, and I'll go and look at everybody. How is everything? How, you know what I'm saying? I'm making contact with every guest almost, and the satisfaction in their faces. And then I take my apron off, and then we clean up, and we're out of there. That's probably my best high.
Yeah.
There were moments where I was like, I fed so many celebrities this summer beyond imagination. Everybody except for Obama, Oprah. That's how I felt. Beyonce, but Beyonce was supposed to come. I don't know what happened there, but that was like a moment where I was like, wow. And not to mention, I'm also doing cannabis infused food.
Right.
Yeah.
Not to mention, like, Dave's 420 event, the whole cast of SNL there. Like, it was like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was just.
Let me ask you both a question about this, because I've been to a 420 dinner out in Cali before. We took my art company out there, and we provided art for the actual event and so on. So, I've been in the room, been in the building, with some high-end, food and so on. I'm curious how you both, and Chef Keena, you can take this one first. I'm curious how you both approach dosing, and like, in particular, it's not like, again, if you're talking about an edible, right? You take an edible, you're getting your dosage in that one little, gummy bear or whatever. But when you're preparing a meal, or, and it's multiple courses, there has to be some type of, method to the madness.
Easily in.
Like, you can't be hitting across the head every dish, or else, people are going to be asleep before you get to the last dish. So I'm just curious how you both approach, that, from a dosing standpoint, especially when you're talking over multiple courses.
Yeah, for sure. So when I do private dinner parties, I like to have kind of a questionnaire, so to speak, where I'm like, I want to get a good idea of who I'm serving. So are these people who are brand new? Have they never tried edibles? Are they like, hardcore veterans? Because that can help lead in a direction, because you want everybody to be satisfied, but you do want everybody to be safe and feel comfortable at the same time. So that is the starting point, is really good communication with whomever the client is, really making it a unique experience and not just kind of having like a cookie cutter, one size fits all program. But then when it comes to the meal itself, I've always been very conscious with dosing. So I try to really keep the entire program, whether it be 3 or 4 courses, under 100 milligrams. I try, but there are usually some can of cocktails as well that are optional, or I'll bring a bottle of my cannabis wine as well. So people can kind of up their dosage if they want to, but I do tend to meter out the dosing, where the crescendo is typically the entree. And I will make sure that there is a decent amount of CBD, and it's more CBD heavy on the dessert side, so that we're kind of bringing everybody down to kind of a calm. Just because even though at my dinner parties, I do advise people to have a ride home or Uber or something like that, I just want to make sure that you still feel comfortable enough to go about your day, because can't nobody stay. If it's something that I'm hosting at a venue, if it's at your house, then you can do you. But that's really the goal, is to really.
Do you see in the future the opportunity for this infused experience? I've never had one before, but I would love to partake in one. But do you see this as, the future of this opportunity of actually having a a space that's specific to that, and that people come to your space. It's like you go to a restaurant to dine, but it would be an infused restaurant where you can able to partake in, of course, the menu may change on a daily or a nightly special or whatever. Because I think right now, we're seeing more so like you have a space, you may rent it, a private party, they come in, you do what you do. And I would love to kind of, maybe you can have some predictions of what you see the future or what your hopes are of the future.
I mean,
for sure.
I've already applied.
Right. I'm like, yeah, because like in my mind, I have so many ideas. Yeah. I'm like cannabis food trucks, cannabis cafes that are basically rival a Starbucks, but everything is infused. So it's like I absolutely, in terms of hopes and dreams, yeah, I mean, with the sky's the limit. But I do think we'll see that. But right now, I know the consumption lounges, for the most part, aren't allowing the food to be infused. It's like a pairing of smokable cannabis or something like that. But I don't live in those states, so I can't really speak to that specifically. But that's what I heard.
Yeah, Chef Nikki, what you got?
It's happening. And
yeah,
it's happening. Yeah.
Chef Nikki, you're in what?
Hey, Roz, we got a question on Clubhouse. I don't know how we got that question in last time, but he's been being kicked out and back.
So all you gotta do is just, you're gonna have to take yourself off a minute and get the question. Okay. So Chef Nikki, are you in California? Are you in Cali?
I'm currently in Ohio.
Okay.
Dave's still in Ohio. But I'm in Cali also, but I also operate in Michigan because I'm a couple hours from Michigan.
Okay.
We had already worked on the structure of the restaurant. We've been working on this for 2 years, and the city is just now allowing me to start the application process, because there really isn't one for a cannabis infused restaurant. So I had to work with the pharmacy board, the FDA, the state department. There's a lot of different things that also the CDC, it's a lot of entities you have to work towards this. And so I propose that we only do a 10 milligram max. I mean, it sounds low, it sounds really novel, but you had to start somewhere. So being able to infuse your meal with CBD or THC or 1-to-1 ratio or something like that. And what happened was, I kind of but the city of Detroit, the mayor's office, I started doing the High End Affair there quarterly. And so in the High End Affair, I didn't even talk about that part, but the High End Affair is a traveling cannabis culinary tour.
We're going to get into it. Yeah. We want to learn. That's the business side, because we want to learn about that.
That's the business side. So that's a whole nother story. But that, sponsored by Weed Map, shameless plug, is that kind of set the tone where the city, the people that work for the city council were like, okay, well, the way you're doing it is different. We never had it presented to us this way. So we will consider it now. And so I was like, y'all will? And they were like, yeah. So I was like, okay, so this whole restaurant thing may work out. And then I have a food truck coming with Weed Maps that we will travel to your city doing culinary infused cooking demos in all rec markets. So it'll be a Chef Nikki Weed Maps truck coming to your city sometimes.
Yes.
I love it. Shout out to Weed Maps. Weed Maps be showing some love. They were one of our nominees for that's Chef Nikki that's the wrong one. That's not her handle. That's Chef Keena's handle. I want to make sure you got the right handle out there. So it's okay. So listen, because that's so super dope. And the reason why I ask is because we're working on with the state of Nevada about social consumption and also creating opportunities for restaurants and infused. And I think it's something there. I think there's folks right now, especially on the vegan side, that they have such a specialty in that area. They really want to be able to have the ability to be able to infuse. And I think it should be a business opportunity. I think there could be some, it is definitely a business model out there. And we're thinking that, we're hoping in Nevada, the way that we're trying to structure some policy is that you don't have to be it's only limited to so many licenses. Literally, if you have a restaurant and if you meet the criteria, what have you, and if you're in a municipality, you can apply for a consumption license and be able to have infused foods and things of that nature. So
yeah, I mean, it's like it's definitely coming, and I think you're on the right track with that, especially in Nevada.
Yes.
In California.
Come on, Chef Nikki, come to Nevada. Let's set it up, girl.
I was just there.
In Las Vegas.
It was as cold as it was in Ohio. I was like, this is the same. It was a little chilly when I was there. But, the interesting thing is I was approached, of course, like kind of sort of by Weed Maps to do, in connection with another entity, to do the country's first edible food festival in Orange County.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
yeah. And so that's like literally, we all have been working on this stuff for the last couple years and getting the licenses for those things, because it's a hefty license for like a 1 or 2 day thing in the California for events of that sort.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, just the operating license, they probably want like $25K just for 2 days.
Yeah.
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 Let me ask you both something in regards, because I have my hemp and fork company, and we focus on hemp foods,
Right.
but all deriving from the hemp seed, and so hemp grains. And I'm just curious with both of you guys, have you guys seen, or do you have you seen the use of hemp seeds and hemp protein powders and other things like that? Do you guys use any of that in your cooking and your baking, Chef Keena? Anything like that?
honestly, no. I mean, prior to cannabis in general, I use hemp seeds in like smoothies every day, just because I try to get that in there. But from a plant-based protein standpoint, but honestly, no. I mean, not that I don't see it, but I don't particularly use it. I think that the market is becoming heavily saturated with CBD and hemp-based products, just because, unfortunately, there's going to be bigger brands trying to ride the coattails of, a movement. So we're seeing more and more products like that, and they, unabashedly slap, a leaf on the packaging and things like that. But I think as we learn more and more about phytocannabinoids, and that we don't just have to lean so heavily into THC only, I think we will see a lot more interest in these non-psychoactive cannabinoid foods and products and things like that, as people just learn that getting more and more of that constituent in your system will be good for you in creating homeostasis in the body. So I think absolutely there's some room for that to take off pretty soon.
That's a really interesting conversation, because my question for both of y'all, and I'll start with you, Chef Nikki: do people want infused food to be able to experience the euphoria, or are they looking for it for the health and wellness benefit? And what should we be teaching? What should we be talking about as we are, especially in communities that are not like, they're not used to this. They're like, it's the cannabis legalization across the board is brand new. Being able to have an option to even talk about edibles is so brand new. I would love to get your take on that.
I think that, I think it's kind of a mixed bag when it comes to purpose of why someone is at my table. And I think that majority of the people are, cannabis enthusiasts, of course, and they want to know everything about everything, and they want to try everything. Like, I just want all the experiences, right? And so, which is wonderful. I am one of those types. And so, and then I have some people that come to the events that are like, very ill. And want to delve more into the conversations with me more on the medical side, on the healing side. Before you come to my event, we do have a screening process in which, in order for you to even get on the guest list, you have to sign a non-disclosure agreement and go through all these questions. Right? Like, I'm not playing with y'all. And so a lot of times we're starting to understand, like, you know, as I was kind of building this database, we were starting to understand kind of the nuances and then the, of people while they were there and the demographic breakdowns. And demographically speaking, women are a larger component of edibles and non-combustibles.
Sure.
I mean, as women, we like to be like, ooh, now I'm high. Yep. Like, we just kind of want to do. Like,
We want to say, hey, Nikki, that's me right there. That's me. I'm so okay. Because you know, I wasn't a consumer, so when I you hit the bone like you, I'm like, I'm fascinated as hell, but I would never. Girl, I would fall the F out. You'd be like, pick up Rod's ass off the floor.
Nikki's a grown up, okay?
Nikki is a grown ass.
Oh man, I definitely.
We're not letting Roz attend any type of infused event.
Man.
Oh no, okay, that's tough. I mean, yeah, because
chaperone.
And most of the times, yeah, we're gonna have to have a chaperone or a sitter with you.
Yeah.
But
I'm lightweight.
Yeah.
Me too. That's okay.
And I think because I've been doing the high-end affair for so long, like I am used to operating at some of the highest places I've ever been. I'm like, I would look at my partner Josh like, bro, I have a little cocktail of things to get my high down. And when I give him that look, he's like, 1 second, because I now have to interact with guests and they have questions and things like this. And I'll be wanting to sit down too, you know?
Yeah.
So
let me tell you something. When you come out, because I had an experience, I used to live in LA and Chef G. Garvin, I used to go to his restaurant quite a bit in LA.
That's my guy.
And interact with his, let me tell you something, that experience when you take off that apron or you know your coat or what have you, come out and you're being able to interact with your guests is so powerful because we feel like we are the only thing that really matters in your mind at that particular time. So
yeah, y'all are like my babies until y'all go home.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because when you have like at the high-end affair, we usually have 250 to 300 guests.
Right.
I have that amount of people for 4 to 5 hours, right? And I'm doing everything on a titer. So every course is coming out is a different milligram intentionally. And the products that I'm using are very like particular and I'm like in the way that I use them. So I put so much thought into just you sitting down at the table and then I can start. You know what I mean? Like it's a thing that it makes me feel like I just have to take care. Like everybody's like a little pedal.
Yeah.
I just have to get you to here. And so within that, I do have people that get extremely high. Of course. Roz, you would be one of them.
She had to do you like that.
Roz would be one of them.
My new friend, y'all heard it. You heard it live, Clubhouse. I got you.
Roz, you're gonna be one of them.
I'm gonna sign up as a chaperone, just so we.
You'll be one of them. But the great thing about it is, I mean, my team, like I have a team of like 40 people at my events, like between, you know, like all the servers and all the girls that are passing out the food, the pre-rolls. They also pass out these packets. It's a company I work with called Undo. And Undo will take your high down in 30 minutes. It's this dope ass Latino woman in Arizona. She's doing they're cold pressed olive oil capsules and they strip your system. So what they do with the lipids, they go through your system and start pulling the cannabinoids and like stripping them. Right. And then next thing you know, in 30 minutes, you're like, okay, I should be okay. And I'm like, I'm gonna get another one for the road. Okay. But there are times where people get so high, it's like, you know, we have to take care of them to get home. And we have Lyft is one of my sponsors. So Lyft will get you home, no problem, on me. You know what I'm saying? At the very least, you might have to pay $5 to get you home. But yes, all of my staff is trained. We have these huge bowls of undos all around the party, all around. Just if you're feeling too hot, just take one. And so, because in the old days, I would have to make my own cocktails of CBD and like to get people's high down, because you could be between 100 milligrams up to 300 milligrams at my party.
Wow.
And the reason is because you're getting 8 courses. That's number one. There are times where the guys forget that it's infused and they be like, let me get another one of those. Okay. I have plenty of uninfused food going out in between there because I know you're high and hungry. You know what I'm saying? So if you see a chicken wing go past you, that's on me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then at the same time, all of my bartenders, because we have Martell, Jameson, and Avion that sponsors the bar. And I'm probably one of the only people in the country right now that has finessed a liquor company to sponsor a cannabis party.
Yeah.
But they're fucking with me. So only CBD though.
Yeah.
So all of the cocktails only have 1 ounce of liquor in them. And then the CBD comes through. We do CBD in our simple syrups. We do them in our bitters. We do them in, we have an atomizer that we do a terpene spritz on the glass. So you're going to get the essence at the nose. And then the CBD is just waiting for you to just go ahead and drink it. I mean, everything's water soluble, so you're not going to feel it. It's going to taste like a cocktail.
Yeah. But
So,
I think it's so crazy and so dope that you, in your mind, like you play out all the scenarios in your mind. Like you have
to. You
I'm
have
your
to.
mother, I'm your sister, I'm your brother, I'm your daddy. I play out every role. Everybody.
Keena, same thing, Keena. So you play out before you produce.
Oh my God.
You're playing out all of the different scenarios so that you're prepared. You
have to. I think, especially, like I said, I used to work in the healthcare industry. So I think when you have a little, like Nikki in pharmaceuticals, it's like you understand that different people are going to react differently to the same constituent, right? So when you really get that, and then humans, we can be a little crazy. So then you just kind of add all those scenarios, and it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, Roz, with the anxiety. It's not even just the food and the perfectionism of getting everything right. It's also the actual event going off without a hitch. So, my Secret Supper Club events, I'm concerned about everything from, ambiance and music and, the temperature in the room and all those kinds of things, and the way in which, like I said, the people will react and behave. I mean, like Nikki says, you have some people who are like toe up and then you have some people who just chilling. So, that's just the nature of taking really anything, and you just really have to be, if you're going to be responsible in this industry, you have to be prepared for all the different scenarios that could come up, because it's your responsibility. I mean, I make people sign non-disclosures, waivers of liability, and all of that. But at the end of the day, that's just a business choice.
I was going to say, y'all are business minded.
But you are my responsibility. So at the end of the day, it's like you're coming into my home. When I'm if I'm feeding you, if give you a work of my own hands and you're putting it in your body, I take that extremely seriously. So just really making sure that people are okay in the vast array of things that can happen. And then to Eric's question earlier about kind of the split of interest in terms of get high or stoner versus medicinal. I think any of us who are in the cannabis industry have a specific responsibility to educate. It's not a new plant, but it's a new industry. So if you're going to be in this industry responsibly, it really is your responsibility to constantly tell people what they need to know. So, I look at it from the perspective of sell them what they want, give them what they need, right? So you came for whatever you thought this experience was going to be, but if you ever end up in a room with me, you're going to learn something. You know what I'm saying? So what I will find is it's usually maybe a 50-50, 60-40 split on who's looking to get high and who's looking to learn more about cannabis in general. But by the time they leave, I find that there's a larger conversion of people who are like, oh, wow, I didn't know this particular cannabinoid was good for this, or can you tell me a little bit more about how I can use it in my everyday life? So I think it's just our responsibility when we have people's captured attention to, give them what they came for, but send them away with some information as well so that they can use it more expansively.
Well, when your guests come to y'all next thing and they go, okay, I have trouble sleeping, tell them I got something that's CBD that's a great sleeper. So,
Okay.
So I mean, there's an opportunity for these things to rest together and and to be able to support one another. And that's kind of as we start to wrap down for Canna Talk. I would love for you to start to share with us, like Chef Nikki, do you see from a business perspective? I would love to talk about the high. What is it? Is it higher dining, or say it again now?
Higher end event.
You're talking about my event?
Yeah.
It's called the High End Affair, trademarked.
That part.
Thank you. It's called the High End Affair. That is now powered by Weed Maps.
That is now powered by Weed Maps. So from that perspective, do you see where do you see the possibilities? Do you see yourself creating products? I mean, because we got people on, and shout out to the folks on Clubhouse that are listening to Chef Nikki and Chef Keena. But do you see other operators branding your products? Do you see that being able to? Because not everyone's going to be able to experience some of your affairs and some of your events and how you put it on. But I think there's something that you have that genie in a bottle, and I want it. And how do I get it? And I think it's an interesting conversation.
Well, I probably should explain to you the premise of the High End Affair. Not just the High End Affair. It serves as a marketing arm for cannabis companies, and so the High End Affair, on average, my operational costs are between $75,000 to $100,000, and those are all sponsored. Okay, and because what the cannabis companies do is they want select group of people, demographic, celebrities, things like this, and they want to be able to, also be the cool kids. So yes. I, being somebody that has the culture, am giving the culture the opportunity to be like, y'all just not gonna do us any kind of way. This is how we want it, okay? So we've had like a lot of sponsors that have wanted to be a part of this, in the sense where we have liquor companies, we have water companies like Box Water, we have other beverage companies like Boylan Soda, and ice cream companies, like all like sponsoring products to be a part of the High End Affair. And when you come in the High End Affair, you have all these different activations. So it's almost like going to like a little mini Complex Con, or like a little mini just like experience. So one room, you like for example, NBA All-Star Weekend, we had one where you would come into an igloo and it would mist this CBD vapor, but inside of the igloo, because it was cold, it was 2 degrees outside, but it was warm in the igloo. And we had these like these different companies have different activations with their products.
Wow.
We have a dab room. We have Mary's Medicinals that sponsors the massage, so you can get massage and reflexology there. And you can go into another room and have another experience with a different cannabis company. And so it ends up being like a huge networking event, because now you're in a space where you weren't thinking. Some people are like, oh my God, I did not know that E40 was going to be here. And in my mind, I'm like, shit, why not? And that's usually how that ends up. Like in the Bay Area, we had one at one of the former LA Lakers coaches' house. His name is Brian Shaw. He used to also play for the Lakers. We had a party at his house. So the High End Affairs there. We have all these great companies sponsoring. Tucky Blunt sponsored as a dispensary sponsor. So Blunt and More was there. We also had Keith from Purple Heart. So I pull all of my equity folks. Like Black folks, they get asked to participate first. Okay, I'm gonna be clear. And then at the end, depending on how much money we have in the response, I'm like, so
I need this to make up. Can we make up the difference?
We make up the difference a little bit. We had like Lagunitas sponsor. Lagunitas has an infused beer. And so we had these great, it was beautiful. And then I remember cooking, and E40 walks in and looks at me. He was like, I've been waiting to meet you. I'm like, same. And then we had the guys from Green Day show up. And then Gary Payton came, and then Mr. Fab came, and then we have the CEO of LAX there, random, and then we have, you know, executives from Kaiser Permanente, also random, and then just your mix of cannabis entrepreneurs, industry people, performers, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but it seems pretty cool. So, and then we serve dinner. And then we have a band. I mean, it's a very lively function.
Yeah.
And the relationships that have come from that have been immense. From that, you know, people have connected, have built businesses together. Like, that's really all I wanted. I'm not asking for anything from nobody. I just really want us all to know each other. Number one, we have celebrities that are interested in having cannabis companies. I have growers there. I have processors there. I have distributors there.
Yeah.
Other companies are looking like Gary Payton sitting there, you know, and he just had his little Gary Payton packs come out with cookies, but he's also in the middle of making another deal with another brand. That happened at my party.
Yeah,
so that is the high end affair. It's not. Yeah. Dinner is usually the last thing on my mind. It really is. By the time I get to the kitchen, I'm like, and Linda has already had it set up for me. She's like, I got you, chef. I'm like, all right, cool. But that's the movement that I started in taking cannabis dinners, the concept, and putting business models behind it, also putting marketing behind it, also having people understand that we can have all these cool things, but somebody got to pay for them.
Right. Yeah.
Might as well sponsor it out, and then that's it.
I love the concept of being a bridge connector and connecting all these, and you know, not only the celebrities to the processors and the folks that are working, you know, but even the other entities that are outside of that. You just never know where there might be a connection. And the more that we normalize cannabis, the more that there's going to be opportunities to do business with one another. And if you can create that environment, I mean, kudos to you and what you're doing. But I do know that folks will want to, you know, as you look at this and as we streamline and you're one person, you know, I just look at it from my branding eyes. I'm like, because I'm getting calls left and right. Roz, we want to put brands on our shelves. We want Black-centric brands to be on our shelf. These are operators. And honestly, the number that are ready to go that meet some of the criteria is
tough.
It's tough.
It's very tough.
But that's not a celebrity, or not, like, they don't want the celebrity. They don't want the entertainer. They want the, you know.
Yeah, they want the person. They want the equity candidate. They want. So I get that, and that's and part of that is the reason why we put all of them in the same room too.
Yeah,
because a lot of times, you know, equity candidates and people who want to have cannabis businesses that are people of color never get an opportunity to meet the CEO of a cannabis company that's like a viable one, or a MSO or anything like that. And so that's what we strive to make sure that, like, I always tell people, like, even my cannabis companies that don't have any Black people on their boards or working for them, like, don't get it twisted. We're first in my mind. Okay. I'm just being real with you. We're first in my mind. And if I can get, like, for example, I have two brothers from Omaha, Nebraska. They make this syrup called this THC syrup.
Sure.
It's called high grade. They came to me because they didn't know how to scale up. They didn't know they don't know anyone in the industry, but they have a beautiful product. Fast forward now, connected them to WeMap. They came to all of my stuff. They are now in the cookie store in Denver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Relationships, just because I was like, talk to this person, come to this event, come to this party. You know what I mean? Different from Clubhouse. Clubhouse sometimes is hard for me because I can't see you.
Yeah,
I agree.
And I can't hit the authenticity button or not. Like, are you a real person, or are you messing us? Or are you, like, what is this? You know what I mean? And so I'm not used to operating that way. But I think that moving forward, you know, like, being Black and being in cannabis of course, like anything, we have to work 10 times harder.
Sure.
But I think it's for us to be responsible to each other, those of us that have the skill sets, like teaching people how to build a deck, teaching people how to put together a business plan, teaching people how to get investors. Like a lot of us have those skill sets. Mm-hmm. But a lot of us sometimes are so busy, like going up, we're like, right. I don't teach you that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that we gotta, like, as a community, we gotta teach each other. Like if I see somebody has a great product, but they don't have the business model, I'm gonna at least try to help them get there, or come off to another brother or sister that can.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So that's that.
I mean, I love it, Chef Nikki. Chef Keena, yourself, what's your end game? Do you see yourself doing on the medical side? Do you have a product? What are you looking to do as you continue your journey through this through this industry on the food and food infused?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm a big CPG girl, CPG girl. And if any of our listeners don't know what that is, that's consumer packaged goods. So that's how I started in terms of my first kind of entrepreneurial foray is when I had a commercial bakery. And so I have my experience in getting into large retailers like Whole Foods and Amazon and things like that. So I'm really big on creating product, and kind of one of my own mantras is empowering people to medicate themselves and learn how to do that, as opposed to always kind of having to be spoon fed what you should be having in terms of your self-care with cannabis, so to speak, whether it be medicinal or recreational, even though I tend to lean toward the perspective that all of it's medicinal. Most people just don't believe it is, but if you got anxiety or you can't sleep or whatever, it's all medicinal.
Or if you say, I feel better, or this makes me feel good.
Absolutely. Right. If it helps your sex drive or whatever the case may be, it's all medicinal, right? So, but yeah, like I'm a CPG girl. So, I have for the last year and a half have been working on my patent pending cannabis pasta. So, that's a big thing for me. But I really am more interested in products and getting those into the hands of the people. So I definitely believe in vertical integration. So I would like to have a grow facility, a manufacturing facility, and also a dispensary for full vertical integration of my own products in terms of an end goal. I also have some other products and, other ideas that I can't really talk about yet, but I'm working on some business plans and pitch decks right now. But other than products, I'm a big education person. I partnered with the Mitchell School of Business. So I have crafted and I also teach a cannabis culinary professional course where I teach people the business of cannabis edibles. So not just necessarily like how to infuse food, that's also part of the course. But I also teach people the business. So I tell people all the time that I've given you my 6 years of cannabis infusion experience. I give you my 10 years of accounting and finance experience. And then all of my CPG experience. And I also used to be a merchandising manager for one of the largest grocery chains in the country. So that's really my space. So my course teaches you So I don't teach people just how to cook with cannabis, but I also teach you how to make a business of it. So by the end of this course, you know how to write a business plan, write a pitch deck, you understand legalities and regulations, you understand really how to be smart, how to be properly insured, all those things that you really need to be a business person. Like it's just like Chef Nikki said, just because you make brownies and Rice Krispie treats in your kitchen does not make you an entrepreneur or a business person. It does not make you a cannabis edibles professional. So that's really important to me. So it's kind of It's kind of dual pronged. I love the education side because I like to, like we said, empower people to do this on their own. And right now, I think of my 20 students in the inaugural class, probably 95% of them are people of color. And that makes me super excited because we're getting this information into the hands of people who really I want to see win in this industry. So that's kind of like my passion is the teaching piece, but also just as a businesswoman, consumer packaged goods for sure.
Man, that's awesome. Ladies, we are like so over time.
Let me just shameless plug. My culinary products will be in the dispensaries in California.
Hey.
Yes,
that's what's up, Nikki.
Yeah, we just threw the time to the win.
Yes. So what I need you guys' help because we are what you guys are. You are the epitome of what we wanted to share and display with those entrepreneurs, those business folks, those folks who are just striving for a dream. And we connect with them. That's why you're on with Kenna Talk with Roz. But more specifically, we want to make sure we invite you to work with us at Minorities for Medical Marijuana. It truly is. I started the organization because I'm a sickle cell mom. My son has sickle cell, and I lost my mom to breast cancer. And we do not apologize. We service our community. We're trying to normalize this plant. We're trying to be able to have candid conversation where we can be open. The fact that you guys have been able to share not only what you're doing, but your dreams, and then how you turn this into a business. I think it's just so super dope. So thank you so much for being on with us today. People at Clubhouse is still popping. Thank you Clubhouse for hanging out with us today. Folks still
popping. You want me to jump over there on Clubhouse?
No, let's just going over to Clubhouse and let's keep it popping, keep it rolling,
keep it moving.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to look at me.
Ping me.
Right, I'll keep Talk with Roz open so we can really get down. But wrap us up for today, Ben.
Man, Black Girl Magic on full display. You ladies are absolutely amazing, and it's just good for me to sit back here and see my sisters really rocking. You guys are bringing so much value to the industry, not just from the products you guys put out, but the business savviness that you guys bring to it. I just dropped the ebook last week, and it's all about that. I try to tell people all the time, your cannabis product is just your product. Just having a product doesn't make you a business owner or, like you said, an entrepreneur. So I think you guys are really, really, putting on full display the value that we bring to this industry. And I'm just excited to have you guys as guests. Excited for all of our listeners on Facebook, on YouTube, on Clubhouse. We got it all going. This has just been a phenomenal day today. Again, more fire, more heat. And we're bringing it to y'all every single Friday. So tap in. We will see you guys back here next week on Canna Talk with Roz. But as usual, y'all know my message. Go home, love on yourself this weekend, love on your family, and get some rest because come Monday morning, we got work to do. And we will see y'all back here next week on another episode of Canna Talk with Roz.
Thank you, guys. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, guys.